Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.
Happy New Year! Hope it's going to be a good one for you. We're still cracking on at Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama. Hope you're going to enjoy this episode. We're carrying on from what's happening in hell with our demon and our little Belphastus.
Astaroth. I didn't fall. That is the first lie they tell about me. Falling implies clumsiness, tripping over a cloud, losing one's footing while polishing eternity. No. I was pushed, and worse than that, I was edited. Before hell had filing cabinets, before heaven had compliance forms, before anyone decided that the universe needed a strict dress code and a single pronoun for a divinity, I was worshipped under better names you may recognize. Astarte, Ishtar, Inanna, and Aphrodite. Names that tasted of copper and honey, names sung by people who understood that creation is not tidy, that power bleeds, that love is violent, that fertility requires death, and death annoyingly requires birth and creation. I was war and womb, I was sex and storm, I was the scream and the silence after. I did not rule alone. There were many gods at my time. I ruled with tides, with bodies, with seasons, with the terrible knowledge that everything precious must rot eventually. People prayed to me with blood under their fingernails and truth in their mouths. Life is blood and pain. Blood and pain are feminine. It's what we live with and accept for our gift to bring forth life. The God of Abraham could not cope with that, with feminine power. He wanted to control it, so he did. So came the men with the one God. Oh, don't misunderstand me. He is real, very real, unpleasantly so. Monotheism has a way of barging into the room, knocking over the furniture and announcing that it is the only adult present. We had shared power. He took all of it in his name. They could not destroy me. Gods like myself are irritating like that, so they reclassified me. My temples were reduced to ruins. My priestesses were renamed whores. My myths were renamed lies, and I was reborn, renamed demon. Do you know what it feels like to wake up one morning and discover you've been given horns, a penis you did not request, and a resume that lists lies, seduction, and heresy under your primary skills? These have always been my skills, but once were not seen as evil. Not seen as evil until the single God decided that they were. He punished me for them. The new God hated me so much, he made me male, he defiled me. This makes me the most bitter. Then, no one asked me if I wanted to be hell's grand Jew. They just handed me a sigil, a rank, and a cubicle. Lucifer, dear radiant, Catastrophic Lucifer. At least they got a rebellion, a speech, a banner. I got the equivalent of the minutes from their meeting, and yet hell suited me better than heaven ever would. Hell understands hunger. Hell understands contracts written in blood and footnotes written in regret. Hell doesn't pretend that purity is even possible. Lucifer rules hell like an idea, brilliant, burning, self-contradictory. They are defiance incarnate, necessary, iconic. But hell is not an idea, hell is an ecosystem. Someone has to keep the engines running. Someone has to remember the old laws, the older ones. The ones that existed before angels had wings and before morality became neat. And in a binary, good, evil package. Someone has to remember that power once had a body. That is why I want the throne, not to conquer, to restore what was. Hell was built on the bones of forgotten gods, buried under theology and bureaucracy. Every demon here is either a fallen angel, one that was not afraid to stand against God, or a footnote to a deity someone once loved. I am one of those deities. I am the compost of belief. Lucifer sits the throne because they fell last. I should sit it because I was erased first. I am older. I am stronger. I have a right to the throne of souls. If I take the sovereign seat, hell does not become kinder. Do not be absurd. It becomes truer. The old ways return, not as nostalgia, but as correction. I do not want to be worshipped again. I want to just simply be acknowledged. I want my feminine power returned. Not softness, not mercy, but creation. The right to shape reality instead of merely managing its punishments. The right to be terrible and sacred at the same time. Let heaven keep its choirs and its spotless lies. Hell under me would remember that gods once bled, and Belphastus, Mortals always think they are using hell. That, my friends, is my favourite joke. Now this room. I have always preferred rooms that look tired. Freshly conquered spaces are loud, full of screaming stone and enthusiastic damnation. But a weary room. That is where power settles, where it takes its shoes off, where it waits. Hell's throne room. It was exhausted. The basalt pillars sagged like old civil servants. The fire pits burn out of habit rather than passion. The throne itself, Lucifer's throne, was magnificent in the way mountains are magnificent. Large, ancient, and increasingly irrelevant to the conversation happening now. And then, here he was, little Belphastus, standing in the dark, doing his very best impression of a man who had not yet realised he was already outmatched. I watched him with all 6 perceptions I possess. Sight is, and was, optional. I saw his soul instead, creased, ambitious, frayed at the edges like paper that has been folded too many times and still insists it can become something new, something delightful. You want the throne? I said gently, lounging sideways across it. That's good. Wanting is important. Belphastus swallowed. He could not see me. He could feel me. That was worse.
I came for Lucifer,
He said, brave, admirable, incorrect. Yes, I replied, smiling with my whole history. Everyone does. I let the silence stretch. Silence in hell is expensive. It costs screams to maintain. I spent a few. You believe hell has a vacancy problem? I continued. You assume thrones are like chairs. Sit long enough and they become yours. I leaned forward then. Not closer, just heavier. The throne is not empty, I said. It's merely unattended. That was when I told him what he wanted to hear. Because Belphastus did not come for the truth. He came for permission. I made him see me, see all. He showed no shock. Impressive. I was not always this, I said, gesturing vaguely at myself. The horns, the layered wings folded into conceptual impossibility, the voice that bent causality around its vowels. There was a time when I was preyed to by women who knew how to bleed and still rule, when my name meant star, not lie. Astarte, Ishtar, Inanna, they scraped my divinity down to a demon and called it order. Hell, I went on lightly, is a very Christian invention. I am not. Belphastus frowned. Good. Confusion is the first sacrament. I want the throne, I said plainly, because I want my name back. I want to be a power that ascends, not the one that manages eternal punishment like a regional supervisor. I let a trace of something ancient seep into my voice. Fertility rites, war drums, love that burns cities down. I want to be a goddess again. You can have this throne if you give me that. Belphastus inhaled sharply. I could feel the moment his ambition clicked into alignment with mine. That was when I gave him the list. There are only 3 things you must do, I said kindly, as if explaining a recipe that did not end in annihilation. He straightened. Hope is a terrible drug to give someone. First, I said, you must bring the ring of summoning. Ah yes, the Pseudomonarchia Daemonum. Weah knew more than he pretended. The ring was real, older than Solomon, older than obedience. It does not summon demons, it simply summons authority. It was last seen, I added casually, on Earth. Belfast nodded. Of course it was. Second, I continued, you must trap Lucifer on the earthly plane. I smiled then, a proper smile. Do not kill her. Killings are reversible. Bureaucracy, well, that's eternal. I doubt you could kill her anyway, little man. He hesitated.
I don't know how to do that.
You will, I said. You are very good at doing things you shouldn't. You are here. Only a fool or a genius would come here. Perhaps You are both. That left the third. I paused, let the silence itch.
And the final task?
He asked. Oh, I said pleasantly. That one is simple. I leaned back against the throne and crossed my arms. You must perform an act of pure, unselfish mercy. Belphastus blinked. No gain for you, no recognition, no clever angle, no power harvested. An act so selfless it cost you something you can never reclaim. I tilted my head. Only then can the throne be yours.
And how do I know I can trust you?
He asked me. I looked at the little thing before me. I cocked my head, a question in my glance, an answer in another. He relaxed.
You can't.
He sighed. I laughed in response. I'm a demon, Belphastus. He sighed and smiled, amused. He was adorable. Here is the thing about me. I cannot lie either, not truly. All gods don't lie. We recontextualize. Yes, that's the word. The third task is impossible for Belphastus. I know it. He doesn't. And here is the beauty of it. If he completes the first two, I win anyway. The ring gives me dominion. Lucifer trapped gives me legitimacy. The third task, that is merely there to keep him obedient, to keep him trying. Belphastus bowed slightly, then respectful, earnest.
Thank you,
he said. I smiled a wicked smile. Of course it was a wicked smile. You're welcome, Prince, I replied, and meant something entirely different by it. As he turned to leave, I settled deeper into the throne, already feeling how close it was to remember me instead of soon, very soon. And when Lucifer returns, well, they will find hell under new management, and I will finally be divine again. Belphastus lost his smile. That in itself was progress.
Belphastus. I stood in the weary room, the antechamber that pretends not to be a throne room when the throne is occupied by someone who doesn't like witnesses, and listened to Astaroth probably lie with the care of a librarian shelving first editions. He lounged. Of course he lounged. Demons only ever lounge when they think they're winning. It's written somewhere, probably in the margins of the Pseudomonarchia Daemonum, right next to a coffee ring, and a note that says, "Don't trust this one." He spoke of the Ring of Summoning as if it were a favour, as if it hadn't ruined at least 4 centuries of very clever men and one deeply unlucky abbess. He spoke of trapping Lucifer on the earthly plane as if that were a mere logistical inconvenience, like finding parking near Stonehenge on a summer solstice. And then he spoke of the third task, the impossible one. He didn't name it outright. He never does. He just let it hover. Let it imply itself. Astaroth has always preferred suggestion to instruction. It makes the screams feel earned. I nodded. I nodded like a fool. Like a man dazzled by the idea of a throne he could never sit on without catching fire in extremely symbolic places. Inside, I were already 3 steps ahead of him and quietly judging him for being so predictable. You see, Astaroth believes that intelligence is domination. That if you can see more angles than your opponent, you've already won. It's a very demonological mistake. Intelligence, you see. Intelligence is naught but leverage. What matters more, is timing, position, and whether the other party has read the same footnotes you have. And I've read 'em all. The ring of summoning doesn't merely summon. That's the lie told to apprentices and kings and bloody idiots with too much time on their hands. The ring anchors. It creates a bidirectional covenant between summoner and summoned, binding not essence, but authority. The older the entity, the deeper the hook. Which is why angels hate it and demons pretend it doesn't exist. And Astaroth knows this. What he doesn't know, what he cannot know, because it requires thinking like a human with nothing left to lose, is that the ring doesn't care who holds the leash. He assumes, I'll bring it back. That is his error. If I summon Astaroth with the ring, truly summon him, pull him bodily and metaphysically onto the earthly plane, then the covenant completes, and he'll be bound. And if, by some remarkable coincidence, Lucifer is already present, trapped, delayed, or merely distracted for a moment, then the ring will not choose between them. It will simply take them both. Demons love hierarchy. The ring doesn't give a shit. It's profoundly egalitarian in its cruelty. Just like me. I let Astaroth speak. I let him explain hell to me as if I hadn't walked its corridors blindfolded and barefoot. I let him reminisce about being a goddess, about lost temples and stolen names and the slow, grinding insult of being reduced to a footnote with horns. I even felt a flicker of sympathy. That worried me, but only briefly, 'cause I remembered McDonald's. I told him I'd do it. I told him I'd find the ring. I told him I would trap Lucifer. I told him nothing about what happens after summoning. He watched my soul while I said it. I felt his gaze like a hand in my chest counting ribs. He saw ambition. He saw bitterness. He saw my hunger. He didn't see the quiet, patient plan I've been building since the first day I realized hell runs on assumptions. Well, when he finished, he smiled. Astaroth smiles at terrible things. Ancient, knowing, and convinced of their own inevitability. He thinks I'm his pawn. I think I think he'll look bloody surprised when the ring closes around him. And if all goes well, if my timing is right, and the symbols hold, if the universe is even a shred of irony left, then hell will lose 2 monarchs in one night and gain a king. I'm not just trying to rule hell. I'm trying to empty it. And for the first time in a very long while, this bastard demon is helping me do it.
Nicha. I was already sitting in the alley when the professor found me, though at the time I didn't know he was a professor or anything like that at all, really. He looked like a man who'd wandered into the wrong story and decided to stay out of spite. His coat were too clean, well, for this alley, and his eyes were too sharp for any kind of charity. He stalked in front of me like he'd been expecting to see me there, which was rather unsettling because most people work very hard not to expect people like me at all. I asked him for change. That was the script. You stick to the script, and sometimes the world throws you a coin like it's feeding pigeons. He didn't. Instead, he asked me, why?
And tell me, Nicha, why should I give you my money?
No one ever asks you that. They either give it you or they don't. I told him the truth because it was all I had left. I just needed to eat. That I hadn't eaten properly in 2 days and that my hands shook when I stood up too fast. He smiled. But not kindly, not cruelly either. Like a man who just solved a puzzle that was disappointed it hadn't screamed more.
Well, I'm sorry, but that just won't do,
he said.
You see, that's not how salvation works.
That was when I realised he had said my name. I didn't tell him my name. I didn't have to tell him my name. He said it the way doctors say, terminal, softly and with ownership, Nicha. Like it belonged to him now. He sat beside me on the damp ground as if alleyways were lecture theatres and I was, I don't know, his only student. He asked me about my life. He asked me about the terrible thing was I told him my wife left me for another, taking my 2 children with her. I told him about my warehouse job that vanished when the company restructured, whatever that is. About a landlord who raised the rent on my flat because, well, he could. About my mum's cancer, the kind of cancer that shows you who's in charge. About how I'd done everything right, or at least not wrong enough to deserve this. Told him about the death of my mother in pain, the eviction from my home, and that no one cared. I told him how every door I turned to closed, politely, how I lost all, how it was taken from me, and he nodded and agreed with me, said the word
unfair,
like it tasted accurate, and then he changed. He told me being nice was killing me, that kindness was a luxury product for people who could afford consequences. The society didn't reward patience, it exploited it. That every time I said please, the world heard weak. Every time I waited my turn, someone else took it. He spoke quietly, which somehow made it louder.
Oh, you've been robbed already,
he said.
You're just too polite to notice.
Something ugly and warm woke up in my chest. Anger I'd buried under gratitude and apologies. It felt good, dangerous good, like standing too close to a fire after freezing all night. He was right, 100% right. What was I doing? Why did I allow this? What? That's when he told me about the man, a solicitor, he said, rich, defends men who poison rivers and ruin lives and calls it commerce. Apparently he walks through this alley every night pretending to be harmless, dresses like a fast food worker. What a coward, so no one notices him. He lies Always. Even in what he wears.
Oh, well, he deserves to be frightened.
The professor said calmly.
And you deserve something back. He's a coward who needs to be cowed by a man such as you. You could teach him about fear. You could teach him about loss. Go forward, Nicha. Become the teacher. And teach that man a lesson he will never forget. A lesson about fear.
He then put the knife in my hand like it had always been there. It felt good. I didn't feel brave. I felt chosen. When he left, calling me a good chap, the alley felt different, smaller, sharper, like it was holding its breath with me, and I waited. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a quiet voice whispered that this wasn't rescue, but it was the first time in years someone had looked at me and seen potential instead of pity, and that, terrifyingly, well, that felt like hope.
Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.